He really needs no introduction, but he has such a bird's eye view on the industry, first and foremost as an independent artist, but also seeing kind of the trajectory of his brother, Chance the Rapper, and now as a record executive, being behind the scenes, signing new artists like Bianca Shaw. Last but certainly not least, I promise she's en route, is Kei Henderson. She is the president of SinceThe80s, and she works with various artists, most famously 21 Savage, and she's really been instrumental in seeing his rise from day one into the global icon that he is today. So I think the best place to start is just to take a step back and look at the evolution of the industry. So for you, Taylor, from when you began to where we are now, how have you seen the industry evolve specifically as it relates to the creator?
First of all, how you guys doing today? It's okay, make some noise. What's up, South by?
Make some noise. You can be energetic.
The industry has changed in so many ways. I think that the first major change, and I'm proud to say it, I think was Chance the Rapper in terms of touring, not signing the labels, keeping the control of his music, and long before I think even understanding how valuable that was, touring by himself. Merchandise was one of his biggest markets. Touring was the second biggest market, and I believe that his last market was music, because at that point in time, I don't think, the idea of distribution on just a free platform was really there. In 2014, I made the project Broad Shoulders, and we decided to distribute it and independently without any majors or any distribution overheads or publishing partners, and kind of do it ourselves. And I think that when we did that, we created a compound that was actually very, very deadly to the industry as we knew it. Now you could not only tour by yourself, use SoundCloud to become a famous artist like me or Chance the Rapper, sell your own merchandise, but you could also distribute your music, and it could be on iTunes, it could be on Spotify, it could be on Tidal. And now I think what we've started to see, and what I believe are, and I'll call them copycats, right? People that have taken the original idea that SoundCloud had to create a website where independent artists could share music and sounds with each other, and have kind of marketed it into a package like Spotify or Tidal. And it's this thing where people are like, oh, we're all on here because this is where all the great music is. And something that I think SoundCloud has done such a great job of is keeping intact the discovery process for not just artists, but for labels, for pitching, for TV jingles and such and so on. And I think that as the artists have grown and changed, SoundCloud has changed as well with them. So,
well, I think that's a great transition. I mean, Kerry, from your perspective, seeing just kind of the global market, talk a little bit about some of the trends you're seeing and why we are where we are today in this kind of journey of the creator.
Sure. I mean, well, hey. All right. Welcome. Good to see you.
I'm so sorry. Not on. She has a lot of deals going on, so we totally understand. Welcome.
Well, from my perspective, look, one of the biggest trends is exactly what Taylor's talking about. And, for us at SoundCloud, there's no more powerful expression of it than to hear it, straight from artists, straight from the creative community, because we view ourselves as Taylor articulates, is, we're a creator-first platform. All of our focus starts with empowering creators with the very best tools and platforms to put their work in the world. Start to generate an audience, and frankly, even before that, right? It's about collaborating, creating your best work, sharing it even privately, then sharing it publicly, building an audience, getting information, potentially starting to monetize, and set up other lines of business if that's wherever the creator chooses to go. One of the very biggest trends, and there's a couple that I think are really exciting. One is that the music, the world of music is becoming increasingly direct between creator and fan, right? That also goes beyond music, but absolutely, I've been working in digital music amazingly now for almost 20 years, since like the dark ages when it all actually started happening digitally. And this is actually kind of the future that everyone imagined, which is, you actually have artists like Chance and what Taylor are doing who are connecting on a global scale, building a fan base on a global scale, and then that sets up a whole different set of commercial and economic choices for them where they have a totally different level of leverage and information. One of the ways I like to frame this is almost in any investment scenario, take like venture capital in technology. Information is power on both sides. And by that I mean, like, when artists come on SoundCloud, one of the biggest things they do is generate information, a following, right? Data, plays, likes, whatever it might be. And then that puts them in the position to negotiate the very best deal. Interestingly, that's also beneficial to the investors, meaning even if it is a label, because more clarity around something that you might invest in is actually helpful to that process. So again, big trend is that creators going increasingly direct.
Well, I think that's a great point. And I think, key for you as you're discovering new artists, finding new people to work with, talk a little bit about what Kerry mentioned, just kind of this value of information. When you go on a DSP, you're able to see numbers. Just talk us a little bit about how you're using it for the discovery process.
Yeah, I've personally always liked SoundCloud for a few reasons. One, I can see what my friends have liked. And peer approval is what is kind of driving, this new century, right? Like, that's why Instagram's so popular, Twitter, et cetera. So seeing what my friends are liking, and then you kind of just end up in this rabbit hole of discovery, which is really important, especially for finding new artists. So that's probably the primary way that I use SoundCloud, and I enjoy that because that visibility is just everything.
For sure. And I think, we've mentioned SoundCloud a few times. So Kerry, I think with SoundCloud, it's really about this creator-first approach. Talk a little bit about why that's important to you, and that's like an ethos and a mission that you really embrace on a corporate level.
Well, I mean, it goes again to what we were just talking about. But we are at core, we're a mission-driven company. Like, we believe that this is the way. This is the way that technology should be applied to empower creators. I mean, it's not meant to just be corny. I mean, that is why SoundCloud was created over a decade ago. So, I've been with the company now a little less than 2 years. But the reason that I was passionate to join is, I'm a lifelong music fan myself. I used to play, but not as much anymore. But I am super passionate about the power of technology to empower creators to do their best work and to connect with the world. And likewise, look, from the listener side, it's ultimately always a two-sided equation for us, because it's also about giving the listener more direct access, right, to truly different music, an opportunity to connect in a different way on a much more direct one-to-one level with creators, and frankly, the opportunity to support those creators on their journey, right? So for creators and fans alike, right, it's just a much more direct experience, and we use the word first a lot, which is, we want SoundCloud to be the first place that a creator comes, to put their mark on the world. Likewise, we want to be the first place that listeners come to discover that truly new music. So that commitment to being a creator-driven platform for us is at the very core of why SoundCloud was created, and it's at the core of what keeps us different today.
For sure. I mean, Taylor, you've always been independent. Is it easier now because there's so many tools that you're able to kind of meander and navigate through this industry? How has it kind of changed for you? And I think for you being on the artistic side, how do you kind of optimize, right? I mean, you upload a track. Are you someone who's looking at the data? Where are the fans? Are you reading the comments? I think that will be valuable just for you as an artist. What is that process once you kind of upload a piece of music?
I think the process after you upload the music is, like you said, key is getting the first see of what your peers think, grasping the idea of what people around you and the thoughts that they have, because typically, I think, especially me, I like to base the idea of projection off of not assumptions, but a piece of data. So, if I play a new project and 3 of the songs everybody's bobbing their heads to, and then the last 7 songs I don't really see the same uprise. Now I have that information, and with SoundCloud, with the analytics, from very, very early on, my first tour that we actually routed with my booking agent, Kara Lewis, who's done work with Chance the Rapper, Kanye West, Eminem, Rihanna, definitely one of the most, I think, acclaimed names in the game when it comes to booking. We used SoundCloud's analytics to track where we were going to go and where we were going to play our shows. And we actually used that initiative over what she typically does, which is just going through routes of what peers have had, thoughts on other artists that might have been in these places and performed. So I think that's changed. But what I'll say, because the first question was kind of like a two-part question, the music game and the music industry is always rotating. It's always moving. And as an independent artist, the first place that I upload my music to was YouTube. The second place was SoundCloud, because it was a place, one, you could turn your phone off and still listen to the music, but then two, it was just sounds, and it was a faster transportation route, and there were more people that I believed wanted to see artists of the future, and not so much me competing with Drake or me competing with people that are already up there. But as you get further into the industry, and I talked about things like putting the compound of distribution on being an independent artist, then I had to learn to do split sheets, right? Then I had to learn, masters, publishing, royalties, mechanicals, all of these different things. And because of, doing these distributions of these projects, the rules of the Grammy nominations have changed. And what it takes to make a platinum record, and because of the streaming services, these are new things for them too, and as well. So, we've seen different things happen with Pharrell, where, he made Happy Placer, the song Happy, and he reported a record number of low payments for all the streams that he got. But those are just glitches, and we're still learning just as much on the tech side as I am on the artist side. Something that I find very often is that I have a deeper fight as an artist than a lot of people that might work at labels and work in the industry, in terms of making sure that I get my payment, in terms of making sure that I get my placements, in terms of making sure that my publishing is collected and administrated in the correct order, and things like that. And these are thoughts that very often people in the industry, especially at labels and distribution companies, do not have and do not care about. Something since day one that I can say about SoundCloud, and Kerry said it earlier, is the first initiative is always to connect the artist with technology so that they can be projected as far as possible in their careers. And that's something to this day that I think, outside of the independent work that me and my brother and a couple other artists have done, a couple other startup programs, is the only major guys that are out there that are really every day fighting for new opportunities, fighting for ways, giving people like me, Taylor Bennett, an independent music artist, the platform to speak on this stage to you all and talk about things that I think matters, because I don't have to be up here, But the cool thing is that SoundCloud lets their artists do these things. So to answer your question, I think it's growing, it's changing rapidly. I know I'm in the right place with the right people. I'm sitting next to Kerry right now, so.
Likewise, Taylor.
Well, thanks. I think you make a good point, right? As an independent artist, you have to do everything on your own. And the onus is on you, from creating the music, distributing, marketing. It's really on you. But Kei, I'm very interested, as we see someone like 21, because you were there when he very much had this kind of DIY, scrappy approach to now being at a major label. He's a priority. For you, kind of working with someone who has now made it into the room, so to speak, how does that change the role, if at all? Is it still very DIY, or is it now relegating some of the stuff Taylor was talking about to the majors?
Thankfully, it's a little less DIY, because I have time to take care of myself, so that's fun.
Self-care is very important.
Yeah, self-care is like a thing now.
We talked a lot about that backstage. We may have to do a question on that.
We did.
But in the early stages, as a manager, you got to be hands-on, right? You want to do it all because you want to learn the fan. You want to learn to, how do we better approach our fan? How do we better reach our fan? And using tools like SoundCloud and even DistroKid is how we first started off. It was really important for us to know all the data, right? We need to know, what parts of Texas are most popping, because we are routing a tour, and, we don't want to, spin our wheels, right? So having that information is super important. But, I've done everything from merch design, setting up the website, to actually, distributing the merch from my apartment, right? And I wouldn't take that process back for the world, because now I know when I go into these buildings what to tell them. Like, no, we don't want to run it like this. We don't want to do this. When it comes to SoundCloud, don't do this. When it comes to Spotify, playlist these songs. Like, because we're so hands-on from the very beginning, we're able to go into these rooms with way more information so that they don't, excuse my language, F up our business, right? And so that's why I think we've been able to sustain, even at a major, just by being very hands-on in the process and educating even the staff there, the product manager, the radio team, everybody, like, yo, this is how our fan relates to 21 Savage. This is where our fan goes first for 21 Savage music, you know what I mean?
You're like educating the label instead of sort of them telling you. It sounds like you're driving the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want the label to drive the conversation because, I'll be frank, they get a check every 2 weeks regardless to whether you're successful. So it's really important as a managerial team and just a team in general that you're letting the label know, like, yo, this is how we want to run our business. Don't F it up. You know what I'm saying?
I think that is like super. I think that's super well said, and that dynamic here that because what you point out is, look, that's the we sometimes talk about, it's like the agony and the ecstasy of like truly being your own, your own shop, your own startup is like exactly you described, is like very different than the, hey, you're gonna get a check every 2 weeks regardless. The pain of it is there's none of that certainty. The upside is yes, of course, everyone thinks about, it's ownership, and it is ownership, and it's leverage, but it's also just the understanding, right, of like, what works, how all the tools work, right, and at least for me, I think that's one of the most exciting things, and is to see how sophisticated, like, creators and empowered and informed creators and their teams can be, particularly, even early in their careers, because, like, they know how all these tools work, sometimes in a much deeper level than do, the sort of more traditional industry. Like I said, we're partners to the traditional industry too. And actually, if you don't mind, the question I have is, like, I'm always curious, is like, how do you see Taylor, for you too, it's like when you now live in this kind of next stage where, you have come up, and like you all made so much stuff happen on your own. Now you've got resources, but how do you keep one foot in each, right? Like, meaning, like, where you have fans and certain ways that you want to connect with the world, be it, and this doesn't have to be on SoundCloud, right? Whether it's SoundCloud or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever you use, how do you keep the foot in two camps, specifically, like, and also keep the label happy and kind of make that whole orchestra work?
Well, firstly, we're not too concerned with keeping the label happy. I think to answer your question, so you're saying basically, how do we keep our fans happy? Like,
yeah, meaning, like, what does the hybrid world look like? Like, is it just all good and it's like, okay, yeah, whatever, we'll get it, we can release it all to the stores, or are there things from from your DIY playbook? Are there pieces of it that you retain that you're like, you know what, even though we're signed, these are things that we know work to connect with our fans more directly?
Yeah, I mean, a good example for Savage's business anyway is that we've never dropped a single before the actual album. Even in the case with his most recent project, I Am Greater Than I Was, they were really pushing, like, yo, we need to get the Childish Gambino record out, or yo, let's put the Post Malone record out, or how about the J. Cole joint? And it's like, nah, like, Savage is not a singles artist. Radio is not our biggest concern. Our biggest concern is touring and merchandise, right? So we've always dropped our full projects every single time from his first mixtape to now, and, like, it's something that we just most likely will not change. And that doesn't necessarily, go for any other artist. Like, that, what works for one guy doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but we've just maintained our strategy and just knowing that Savage is a catalog artist, and if you are a fan, you want to listen to it from top to bottom no matter what. And the same thing with, like, hiding our features. We don't put our features on there now because we don't want somebody that's a big fan of Post Malone to skip straight to that song and skip all the greatness before that, you know what I mean? So,
which is a very kind of non-traditional approach, right? I think the minute you get into a major system, the first question they'll ask, what's the lead single? We want to work it at radio, and you have these amazing features. We want to leverage the fame of those artists to, you know, continue to push this record forward. I mean, coming into a major label system, how did you guys have that leverage? Because I think a lot of up-and-coming artists, they want to know, how can I kind of broker those deals where I'm telling the label, this is the kind of artist I am, don't use the same blueprint.
right, yeah, we had leverage because, you know, we had gone platinum maybe with 4 records before we had signed a deal. So we were able to go in there like, yo, this is how it runs. Like, this is how the 21 Savage, you know, machine moves, you know what I mean? So had we not had that information or the numbers and that success, I'm not sure what would have happened, to be honest with you. But thankfully, you know, we went in there with all our cards, you know what I mean? And when it comes to, like, I mean, I guess with the only thing that can really educate us on, honestly, is like radio. Like, radio was kind of a beast that we didn't fully understand prior to getting to the label. It was something we had done before, but, you know, that's like still a label antiquated kind of business. So we kind of let them do their thing with radio, and everything else, we control that.
For sure. Well, I'm interested for both Kei and for Taylor. As an artist, what are the platforms you have to be on? Because I feel like there's so many, and there's always a new platform to jump on, and whether it's, you know, the company telling you or the industry telling you, if you kind of advising up-and-coming artists, where should they be uploading their stuff to?
Sorry, I was thirsty to answer it. I would say SoundCloud, and I honestly do mean this. I've had so many different situations moving forward after I had started doing the distribution process. Well, now we were working with major artists that were signed to major labels like Kyle, like Mike Will Made It, Young Thug, you know, people that I've worked with very closely on different, you know, kind of projects. And I've gotten to the point with a lot of these things where, by the grace of God, and thank you, Kerry, there is SoundCloud, where I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to be able to drop this project how I want to drop this project with all of this legality, you know, bullshit. I'm going to put it out on SoundCloud. And I think that that was the coolest thing that I think a lot of us can agree about on SoundCloud, was that you could discover new artists and you didn't have to pay a fee. And you didn't have to pay a fee to upload your music. You know, you didn't have to pay to speak your voice on a platform where millions of people could hear you. So still to this day, you know, whenever I'm marketing, strategizing any release, I call up my guys at SoundCloud. I make sure that you guys have the 411 or whatever it is, because I know that when that project comes out, majority of my fans are going to go to SoundCloud to listen to that project. And, you know, it might be a little bit different with me and Chance because we did build a lot of our base on SoundCloud. But at the same time, I would say that the masses of people that have been brought to that platform from the work that, you know, artists like me, Chance the Rapper, Mac Miller, Macklemore, like a lot of people that were doing these Childish Gambino, 21 Savage, for fucking sure, excuse my language, helped create a base where now there are people that are more eager to find new music and more eager to find new artists. And that platform and that kind of energy and chemistry, I believe, still really only exists on SoundCloud. So the first place that I go is SoundCloud. You know, of course, I want all my music everywhere. So after, you know, we do distribution and, you know, we make sure. But, you know, I'm not one of the guys that chased after playlists. You know, I'm chasing after real fans. I'm chasing after real people that really care that, you know, they might not have the fucking money to buy the song first when it comes out, but they definitely will spend the time listening to it. They'll spend the time talking to their friends. They'll spend the time promoting. And that's the whole thing with our independent process, is a grassroots organic growth. So SoundCloud.
Well, it sounds like what you're saying is just the artist needs to know who their fan base is, right? First and foremost, and really super serving them where they live and where they listen to music. Would you agree with that, Kei?
Yeah, I was going to say, to follow up, you made a point about paying to access stuff. So we did a test like really early on when we started, like, you know, having our label conversations. Is we sat down with a couple of execs from Apple, and, you know, we were with our friends and 21's friends, and he went around the table and asked everyone, which one of you has a bank account, right? 2 of his friends had an account. 1 friend had like a Rush card. But But my point is that not everyone wants to download on Apple because they can't, right? Like a lot of the marketing from Apple is like, okay, yeah, it's on your phone already, but do I want to pay $9.99 necessarily? I might not have that every single month, right? So I guess every artist is different. You want to kind of train your fan base, but if you're a hood street artist, YouTube, right? Like kids are going to YouTube to listen to music. They're making their own playlist all freaking day, and that's like the first place most people in the hood go to consume music.
Do you think WorldStar is still kind of important in that space or not so much?
Absolutely. Yeah, WorldStar to me, I think, is
I'm
important.
getting a shake from here.
No, I think that WorldStar, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I would say, I think WorldStar was one of those things where it started off the idea of watching crazy things happen. That's how I found WorldStar. And I think that later on in time, there was a narrative that, was kind of placed that, hip-hop music and rap music and those elements of really our African Americans highlight pop music right now belongs on this website. And, that always irked me. So I had to say that. I don't think that you need WorldStar hip-hop to be successful. I've never distributed or put any work through WorldStar Hip Hop, not to discredit them in any way. They're an amazing organization, great platform, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. Like you kind of have to know your audience when you're making music, right? Like I personally, I'm getting older, so I'm kind of like rebelling from all this like technology shit, and I'm like, yo, I want to read a book, I want to open some pages and read a magazine. Like you really have to have a multi-tier marketing strategy. Like just because you're online and you're on My Mixtapes, Live Mixtapes, WorldStar, SoundCloud, and YouTube doesn't mean that you shouldn't do something in your community to like bring people to your shows. Like you got to have something that reaches people online and offline. And that's where I think that we've been really successful is, we'll do something cool in Atlanta, we'll do something cool in Detroit, like some of these smaller cities that don't always get these cool listening events and stuff like that. So I think it's really important just to know your fans and understand where they consume music and just attack it in that approach. Because what works for Taylor isn't going to work for 21 Savage, or what works for Taylor may not work for Pink Sweats or Ari Lennox. Like everyone's got a different kind of fan, and it's just really important to understand that fan. And it's platforms like SoundCloud where you can see your analytics, and YouTube where you can see your analytics, and Spotify and Apple, like you can see where your fans are. So once you have that information, it's really up to you as a manager, as an artist, to build an understanding of your fan.
For sure. Well, I think both of you have mentioned leveraging SoundCloud. I mean, Kerry, in your opinion, how can artists best use the platform? I mean, at the most basic level, upload your music and see what happens. But how can they really optimize the experience so they do have a good kind of ongoing relationship with the company?
Well, one of the things, and actually, we're always interested to hear like what you all are using too that isn't SoundCloud, and because one of the key things about SoundCloud is it's actually the reason we use the word first, right? First is a different word than only, right? It is not about like we're not trying to be a captive environment, for the creators who choose to use us, not for the listeners either. Of course, we want them to feel excited and become loyal to the platform and get excited about what they can discover here, but we want it to be for the right reasons, meaning SoundCloud should be, we try to set ourselves up as a departure point. That's why you may have seen recently, for instance, like we now distribute into all of the other leading streaming stores, right? We distribute to Spotify, we distribute to Apple, we distribute to Amazon, we distribute to, the major stores in Europe and Asia. And because again, the broader mission is to make it as easy and transparent as possible for creators to do, to exactly what Kei's saying. It's because every creator's music is different, every fan base is different. And so we want to be, the reason we emphasize first is because we want to say, hey, if you come, start to put your scratch in the universe using SoundCloud, we're going to do our very best to point you in the direction to use whatever tools are going to help you grow, whether they're a part of SoundCloud or not. And that also includes signing deals, right? People ask us like, hey, is it a problem for you, when artists go on to sign deals? And I say, absolutely not. Like if that's what the artist feels is the best thing for them at that stage of their journey, then we want them to go do that. And we just hope that we've given them again, information and power, and to, again, what Kei's describing, so that they can go into that discussion that they're going to get a deal that's going to help them grow and not restrict them. And, I tell people, frankly, it would be a bigger problem if that stopped happening, right? We want to see artists grow and evolve and use whatever tools that most suit them. And that's why, again, like I said, we use that word first, because we want to, we take that mission seriously. Like, we want to empower them, and if that means using whatever complement of tools and partners and deals makes most sense for them.
I think sometimes in this space it can feel a bit overwhelming. So many DSPs and, certain platforms that might have been relevant at one point soon become obsolete, at least within certain audiences. I know, Taylor, you released Streaming Services, a song that kind of talks about some of the challenges in this space. Speak a little bit more about that. Like, does it feel challenging and overwhelming at times? And I think the trend is more and more people are going to get into the marketplace, whereas an artist, especially independent, it just feels like way too much. I need to be everywhere and all things to all people. How does it kind of feel on your end being indie?
Well, yeah, I released a song called Streaming Services, exclusively premiered by SoundCloud, so thank you for that as well. But the reason, first of all, why I named the song Streaming Services is because it was going to be called Rockstar, right? But there was so much unclaimed publishing from random artists that, decided to call their stuff Rockstar, and then Post Malone's huge hit. And something that I've learned as an independent artist is that it is hard to separate without the right incubators or smart contracts what percentages are actually mine and somebody else's. So I was forced to be in a position where, my lawyer was like, hey, man, you could put this song out and you could call it Rockstar, but if the song gets super big, I'd be worried that, people are going to claim some of your publishing, Post Malone, because he's with a major. You're not, and you don't want to put yourself in that situation. And I thought for a long time, should it be this hard for me to just put my name on, you know what I'm saying? Like, should it be that difficult? And I was like, what could be more confusing than calling something Rockstar? I'll call it Streaming Services. And I'll put it out on all of their shit. My lawyer was like, why are you doing this? What is it? And I was like, the idea is that for years, African Americans have been the top of pop culture, especially when it comes to hip-hop music. And when you look into other cultures and you look at how other people have grown throughout time, we are still some of the only people that do not know how to sell or work the product that we create. And that alone, every day waking up, is enough for me to keep pushing and keep having these conversations. Because at the end of the day, when you're independent, like he said, you learn the ways, right? And something that I, was sharing with my manager just about maybe a month ago, I was saying that just because we learn how to operate in this government, just because I'm an African American and I have learned how to operate in America and how to be successful, does not mean that I should operate in the same way. If you know the system, change it, right? And that's really what I'm striving at, or what, it's kind of like to be an independent artist, is that, there's that push, but you have to have it there, and you have to, just like Kerry, you got to fucking love music, man.
Are you optimistic, though? I feel as more companies get into space, it becomes more corporate. To your earlier point, it's just going to be lawyers watching lawyers. I mean, as an independent artist, do you feel optimistic about the space?
So as an independent artist, we do all our work in-house. We create all our contracts. We have one senior lawyer, but we do all our own split sheets as well. With blockchain coming soon, I think a lot of PROs, publishing rights organizations, are going to be eliminated. Using cryptocurrency, there is a platform or an idea or what's the word for it? An app, I guess it might end up being at the end of the day, that you can use to facilitate and make sure that you lock down the percentages of what music is yours. And what I see more of is I see these people at the labels, they're scared. They're scared. Chance is winning Grammys. Independent artists are partnering with Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. People that are doing pitching and, these fucking commercials and movie jingles don't want to work with major artists because they have too many restraints. They don't want to give them work for hires. They want to license music. And that's my strong point because I own everything. I own all my own stuff. We've done so many deals just over the years, constantly, and I'm able to build on it. And what's crazy is that I do have, these conversations with labels. I do say, how are you the biggest independent distributing company, empire, and you have a joint venture with Atlantic Records? Because if Chance, had a under-the-table deal, or if I did, we would be liars, right? So
There's also this trend, I think, especially in hip hop, where it's almost like you see artists, they are on SoundCloud, they get very successful very quickly, and the majors kind of start circling. And, it's no secret that the majors are going on a signing spree right now. So, Kei is someone who kind of has one foot in both worlds. Is there a benefit, for artists, for unsigned artists to kind of come in-house? Because we are seeing a lot of people who do want to sign, whether it be for the advance or the resources or other aspects that the majors are bringing them.
I mean, it's always for the resources. And to be honest, a lot of these kids are not going to have really long careers anyway, so they should take the money. When someone's approaching you with, $6 and $7 million, and you have you're kind of like a one-hit wonder, yeah, you should take that money, because you never know if you're going to get that kind of money ever again. And I don't mean that to offend or discourage anyone, but I think that a lot of that circling and the signing wars and all that shit's corny for the most part, because it's just all right, where are the artists with the longevity? Where are the artists that are going to be around for 10, 15 years? Where are the J. Coles, the Kendricks, the Chances? That's more of my my taste level. But that's not to say anything bad about, the guys that are, popping up like that and going crazy. They should get that money because, they're going to recoup it, hopefully. That's the name of the game. So I don't, I don't shun one or the other. I'm just saying,
how can an artist showcase the longevity? Because I think that's what's sometimes difficult when we're talking about streaming, because it's really about putting up a song and whatever gets the most streams, that becomes the driving narrative. And even on albums of 19, 20 songs, it's always the first batch that gets the most listens. And by the end, a lot of listeners fall off. So if you're an artist, an up-and-coming artist, how do you showcase, whether you want to work with someone like Kei or working with you, Taylor, that I'm an artist with longevity, don't just look at my numbers, there's so much more to me?
I think it all really comes down to the product. I think we know a short-lived product versus a long-term product the moment we hear it. And when it comes to, how do you showcase being a longevity artist, it's consistency. Show me over a course of a year, what marketing you've done to sustain your 15-song project. Don't just market one single, market 5 singles. Do some work around all the records if you need to break through. But at the end of the day, I don't chase singles. I'm not really into the hype. I'm not sold on the Gucci Gang record. That's cool, but okay. You know what I mean? Gucci's now, nobody wants to wear Gucci. So it's you got to just be consistent, man, and have a good product. It all comes down to the product at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And marketing.
I was going to say, something that's just very interesting, and I'll relate it to this. Somebody said the other day to me, they were like, is there way more racist stuff happening now, or is it just getting caught on camera? And I think that we're catching things that the labels are doing because for the first time, people like me and Kei, I'm an independent artist. They're orchestrating their whole deals. They're like, yo, fuck you, pay me. This is what I want. Y'all gonna give me what I need. We didn't have those same things when Michael Jackson had to buy back Lil Richie's masters and give them to him, or, but now we do have that insight. And, I think that there's so many alternative kind of routes that you can take as an artist to get to where you want to be. And I think that every day, every week, I'm not lying, we see, you know, it gets more transparent to me, at least, like in terms of, you know, certain artists and certain people, like he said, you know, putting out these hit singles and, you know, they blow up and they're, you know, but there have been artists that, you know, have been coming out for a long time that have put out singles, and the labels have been only pushing one single, only marketing one single, you know, giving these guys record deals for $2 million and not recouping nearly a quarter of it, and knowing that that was the situation, and having time blocks on when they actually get paid, and maybe not even paying them out quarterly on their publishing and things like this. And now we're really seeing it, and we're like, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, my feeling on it, yo, is that, you know, they trying to sign us up, yo. They trying to pin us down, yo. Like, we have something that is much more strong than money, than life, than we have experience. And they are afraid of the things that we will say in the land of free speech.
Well, it's always surprising when the curtain gets drawn back on an industry of like things that are sold as like being insanely complex. And they're complex, right? But when you actually can get into it, I mean, look, you're sitting here, it's a different thing when I think folks as close to the talent can also do their own split sheets, like you're talking about, right? Like that's...
They should be able to do it.
Right.
You made it.
But that's relatively new. Maybe something I can offer from a, like, to just even think about where we are in the arc a bit of like the real sea change of how, you know, creating information, building traction, deciding what types of deals you want to do or not is, if you take a step back and look at technology, for instance, in a wider arc, like you look at like venture capital and how that used to work with technology startups, any venture capitalist will tell you 20 years ago, 30 years ago, all the leverage was on the side of those with the capital, right? Like every tech startup would have to go beg and beg and beg to get anyone to even listen or invest in their company, and the terms were much more stringent, right? And today, you know, I think you see the examples everywhere where companies that have traction, companies that have their own information, it's not about dictating, right? It's not like an ego battle. It's like you just have information to strike a better deal for yourself, right? And that's what I was sort of trying to get at earlier with the information benefits both sides of any market, right? And so that's why, like, and maybe it's to the question of optimism. Like, to me, ultimately, it's one of the things that makes me most optimistic and excited is, you know, that artists and their immediate teams can have these conversations. And of course, they should be concerned with their primary should be expressing themselves and their art and developing and for longevity. I couldn't agree more. But that you can also have an informed decision around what choices do you want to make to fund your art. You know, how do you want to think about and it's choices. It's like your point. Like you can take an advance if that's the right thing to do. You can say, you know what, I want to hold out and I want to control more. But the point is that the balance of power is absolutely shifting from, you know, capital is important, but if you have information, you will have choices around which capital you take. And that to me is the key arc that's really starting to move now, which I think is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of power in choices. And for the artist, it's really about being knowledgeable, knowing your music, and then knowing kind of your fan base and ultimately what your goal in this industry is. So kind of wrapping up before we open it up to questions, for each of you just going down the line, I think one thing about this space is it's always changing. The conversation we had 10 years ago is not the conversation we're having today, may not be the conversation we have in 10 minutes from now. Everything is constantly changing. Looking through the crystal ball for each of you, where do you see the kind of the future of this space, the role of the creator, and what that evolution is going to look like in the future?
Well, maybe I'll start because I think my answer is probably the least important. In that, look, from my perspective, it's look, what we're all here to do, you know, technology or otherwise, is all about humans with creative vision trying to connect with other humans, and like that's the foundation of it all, right? So yes, the tools will evolve and the way people connect will evolve, and the always delicate balance of art and commerce is you know, is a massive debate, always has been, and this is a particularly interesting era. You know, so to me, I think you heard it, like ultimately, I'm super excited and optimistic about the fundamental, like it's what we're talking about, like it will become increasingly direct relationship between creators and their audiences. And it's on us, and I say this, us meaning SoundCloud and all of us who are providing, you know, kind of tools, is stay focused on that point, which is, look, it's about a creator connecting with their audience. That's why we're all here, right? And the less we can tell them how to do that and just give them things to do it with, like that to me are the companies that are ultimately gonna survive.
So I was having this conversation with my manager about a month ago, Joseph, and we were talking about how valuable music is. Music is more valuable than energy, than gas, than oil. I don't just mean, I mean money, like money. It really is. So I want you guys to just, everybody in the crowd, think about this. When you wake up in the morning, if you have an elevator, or if you get in your car, or if you turn on the TV, or if you turn on the radio, or if you listen to your iPod, there's always music. There's always, right now there isn't any music playing. It's a great time to speak on it. But there's always music playing, and that's publishing money. And I believe that for anybody that knows the black box theory, that 3 to 5 years after publishing goes unclaimed, this money disappears. It goes into this black box. There's billions of dollars in there. They use that money to fund schools, governments, the army around the world. And one day, somebody is going to have a label or their own publishing company or a distribution platform, and they're going to have enough artists to audit these PROs and to say that we believe that you all have been making faulty statements. We believe that you all have not been paying people out on time. We believe that you all are corrupt. We believe that monopolies in America are supposed to be illegal, and CSAC, BMI, and ASCAP run 90% of the market. But there's 63 PROs in the UK. That's weird, right? We believe that you all have stolen this money. We are going to audit you. We are going to take you to, God damn it, what is it? What is it going to have to be, the United Court? What is it, KB? It's something like that, right? And we are going to, as artists, because there is no artist union for independent and majors, there's different things that they use to keep us, but as free thought, because that's what it means to be an artist, to speak on a platform, that we are speaking against everything else. And if there is anything going against free thought, it's simple math. We are going against control. I believe that in the next 20 to 30 years, I think the world is going to change from music. I think that there's so much that we have to learn from each other and from control and from marketing. And it all starts with this. It all starts with the music.
Yeah, just to piggyback these two, I know Taylor probably sounds like he's a little nuts, but he's passionate,
right?
But also
crazy people
on the right track, because it's about to be a shit show. Like Spotify is saying that, oh, we don't want to raise songwriters' percentages on payments. It's about to start getting crazy, because now artists, they want the control back. They want their money. Like, yo, where's the rest of my bread? I'm not getting enough money from Spotify. I'm not getting enough money from all of these streaming services. Like, where's the money going? Where's it at? So, yeah, I do, to piggyback what you're saying, and this is a personal opinion, not the opinion of my artist, I should say that, but it's going to get kind of crazy, because now we just want the power back in our hands, right? So it's going to be very direct to consumer. Come to my website and buy my shit. Go to my Bandcamp, go to my SoundCloud and buy it just directly from me, instead of giving it to this master universe where it goes and we don't know, how it breaks down or when it breaks down and all that. So I think it's going to get pretty crazy.
CSAC, is it CSAC? CSAC, right? With Congress, am I right? Sorry, I'm talking to my manager in the crowd, guys. A Sound Exchange and Congress. The government and Sound Exchange have a deal. It doesn't matter if you're independent. It doesn't matter if you're a major. They are looking over your shit. I'm not crazy, by the way.
He's not crazy.
I mean, I think it's great to see your passion, but it just this idea that the space is changing, and I think creators just, you know, the power, it's coming back to them. I think that's kind of the through line in what all of you guys were saying. Awesome. Well, I definitely want to open it up to questions in our remaining time for our panelists. So any questions from the audience?
Hello, check. Hey. So this was awesome. Thank you. My name is Brendan Abernathy. I'm a singer-songwriter. Taylor, you mentioned building your base of fans. And Kei, you mentioned like everybody has a different fan. So with that dynamic, what is a strategy for figuring out exactly how to build that initial base so that you can create full works that people will actually listen to?
I would say this was me and my brother's approach. My brother had graduated high school. All his friends had went on to college. He was just Chance, not Chance the Rapper back then. He had no fans. He was not popular. And we decided what we were going to do, because I was popular, right, is that we were going to call all of my friends that went to selective enrollment high schools. We were going to print out on our CDs. Me and my dad and my brother sat for hours printing blank CDs and just writing Chance the Rapper 10-Day on it. And we're going to go to these high schools. I'm going to hit up my friends that are popular. They're going to spread the word through the school. And at the end of day, all the kids are going to be excited to see Chance. And what that does is that, one, it creates a promotion of people talking about who is this guy, why is everybody talking about him. Two, you get all these pictures floating around the internet. And three, all these high school students end up going where? Most of them from selective enrollment schools, to college, right? And they spread that narrative. And something that I stand by that my brother told me when I was first really starting off in this music shit is it is more important and it feels better for me to say, hey, you heard that new dude, Chance the Rapper? You should go check him out. Than it does to be driving on the fucking Eisenhower and see a billboard that says, yo, check me out on Saturday at 7 o'clock, coming live to you. Like, get the fuck out of here, you know?
Yeah, word of mouth is still the most powerful social media that we have. And to say that is like, put the product out, get it to your friends, and let it kind of spread and kind of see what happens. You find out that, oh, the girls on the cheerleading team don't really feel my music. Okay, maybe it's the soccer players, or maybe whatever it is. Like, you got to just get the product out and let the word spread on its own.
Hey guys, I really appreciate, this panel because I feel like, education about the industry is really, really important because a lot of people that are making music don't understand 360 deals, masters, publishing, et cetera, et cetera. As a quick background for me, I'm a tech co-founder. My name is Sowmya, and I'm the founder of Wavelength. Essentially, we're trying to legitimize independent artists by allowing them to tell their story because we feel that the market is already oversaturated and the only thing that's going to differentiate one person from the other is their story. Anyways, my question is, what do you believe about, the rise of, music tech companies, specifically United Masters? What's your opinion about them, and how do you feel like the industry is changing and aggregating towards them? Thank you.
Who's that directed towards? Me? I feel like it's me.
Of course.
It's directed towards everyone because there's different perspectives, on the panel, like as an independent artist, as a manager, and as the CEO of SoundCloud,
Why don't you take this one? I think you'd be good to jump in on this.
So Steve Stout, the creator of United Masters, is one of my very, very good friends. Me and my manager that's sitting right there in the pink shirt actually helped him develop United Masters. We flew in and out San Francisco, helping him put the whole thing together. It's a beautiful idea. What he's trying to do definitely is to put a cap on the culture and to market it the best way that I think he knows how. Steve Stout, who's managed Will Smith, good friends, worked on so much work with Jay-Z, managed Nas. He is the guy that invented the idea of selling the glasses in Men in Black. People talk about doing productions, big-ass productions. Imagine you made Men in Black, and you guys spent all this fucking money on T-shirts with Will Smith's face on it and all these little stuff. But the only thing, if you guys remember from Men in Black, that we all wanted were those glasses. And he realized after that project that if he knew how to sell those glasses and get the right amount of glasses and not too many and not too little, then he could be a genius at marketing. And he has applied that to, I think, almost everything about United Masters in terms of making sure that the marketing is really placed towards them. I love United Masters. I think it's great what they're doing for artists as a distribution company. I think that their publishing department could use some work in terms of making sure that, there's more artists out here that are not just receiving pitches, but also getting paid for this back accounting money that, goes through publishing. That would be dope for him to do.
Awesome. Well, I think we have time for just one more question.
Cool. Lucky me. Yeah, this is a question in regards to SoundCloud. As an independent artist, what other methods would you recommend or could you offer to help further gain exposure or to help further promote that artist or said artist looking to kind of, find that larger platform rather than just the traditional upload, hope it takes off organically or just whatever the case may be?
Well, again, I'd defer to some other folks on the stage who are using the platforms. That's why I asked Kei, because it's always I think to me it's a think about. Kei said it well, which is like think about your audience, right? And one thing I can say is we even do this when we're always trying to add new features to the platform, for instance. And what we're always looking for is, what's the highest, even if it feels small, what's the highest sort of concentration of heat that we can find, meaning something that we know that's got connection or traction that we can build on. So and you all can tell me if you feel the same, but meaning look for what resonates with your sort of, what gives you the most connection with fans and try to build on that. Meaning, is it about releasing frequently? Is it about releasing less frequently, right? And more finished work. Like some artists like to do it very loose, some like to take time, but it's all about like how do you build that connection and look for the things that actually where you get more of a response and kind of lean into that. Because whether that's SoundCloud or whether that's using other platforms in combination, right? I think it's less about just trying to sprinkle something everywhere and see if it works. It's more about like, hey, where are you getting a connection and what are you getting a connection around? And then choose the tools and the way you use those tools to kind of amplify and accentuate that, right? I hope that makes some sense, but that's the way I describe it.
Yeah, I'd say, my first thing, you got a free link. There's a lot of times that people share stuff with me and I'm like, yo, I don't have Tidal, I don't have Spotify, I can't open this, but I can go listen to it somewhere else now. But, you have a free link, you have an open link, and the way that we started off, share that link. That link is your life, man. Text it, put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram. Don't get tired of it. People aren't tired of it. Just because you've heard it 1,000 times, this is their first time hearing it. Keep pushing that link. That's what I would say.
Yeah, Taylor makes a good point about just cross-promotion. Use that link on YouTube. Use that link on Twitter. Something that we used to do is literally put that SoundCloud link everywhere. Like if you're on our YouTube, you could click out to go to our SoundCloud because we wanted to see, how engaging people were in the SoundCloud platform because you have comments, you've got likes, and you just have a deeper sense of analytics on SoundCloud. So yeah, I would put that link, everywhere.
Yeah, one other tactical thing I'd say is look for other like-minded artists, right? Look for the opportunity to cross-pollinate with more like you are even as an artist is say, like particularly early on, we see artists who connect with other artists, and it's also you just get that encouragement, you get that inspiration, right? And your fan bases are likely to see something in one another. So that's another sort of just tactical thing to think about. Build your own base that way.
Cool, thanks guys.
Awesome. I think share that link is a good fitting end to this panel. So I want to thank Kerry, Kei, as well as Taylor for kind of helping us navigate through this creator space. But it looks like we're optimistic. The future looks good, and it looks like a good time to be in the creator era. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.